Okay, thank you for joining me. This evening I'm going to be talking about a program called SimpleBGC, or Simple Basic Gimbal Control. If you own one of these gimbals, these cheap Chinese GoPro gimbals, or indeed if you own one of the many sort of flavours of FC200 camera, and you've got one of these nice gimbals for it, or even if you've got a Rotopixel gimbal, the board that's inside them runs a program called SimpleBGC. Now, when you buy one off eBay, and I'll just go to one here for instance that I've got up at the moment, the seller may specify which version of firmware. So on this one for instance, he specified it's version 2.2. You can't always rely on that, unfortunately, so what you'll need to do is you'll need to find out which one it is, and it's simply a matter of trial and error. Now to do that, the first thing you're going to need to do, go to Google, type in SimpleBGC space 8-bit, and the first one there, click on that link. It'll open up the download page at Basecamp Electronics, and as you can see there's quite a few versions of the GUI necessary to make any kind of adjustments. If you don't plan on making any adjustments, then you can leave this video. This is purely for those who want to maybe calibrate it or maybe change some settings on it. So okay, so put that to one side. The first thing you're also going to need is the USB drivers. Because it's a USB device, you'll need the drivers. Now I can't find anywhere on the main website for the drivers, so a bit of Google work. SimpleBGC USB driver download, and here you got one from Aerial Pixels. Click on that link, take you to their website here, and the drivers are here, the CP210X UART to USB bridge drivers. Download them. When you do, you'll find they look like this. Now there are two versions of the installer, an X64 for 64-bit versions and an X86 for your standard 32-bit Windows. Just run the relevant installer. Now once you've run it, you'll need to find out which COM port it's been assigned to it. And if you simply go into your device manager, you'll see there it says mine is on COM 5. So if you choose to download them all, as I've done, start with the first one, double click it, and the SimpleBGC_GUI.exe. You will need Java installed. If you haven't got Java installed, you have to go and download that and install it. Okay, so I'll launch the software. Okay, once the software has been launched, plug in your board, and you should hear Windows go boop. See, it's recognised it. You'll also find lights come on the board. On some of the boards you may hear a beeping noise. In the top box here you've got two COM ports. That's why I say you need to find out which COM port you're using. I know I'm using COM 5. If I click on connect, it comes up with an error. It says that the GUI versus board version mismatch, and it actually tells me the version of firmware this board uses. Now sometimes that'll just be a collection of different numbers which gives you no help, but on this occasion my board is saying I'm a 2.2 B2. So if you get that error message, you've got the wrong GUI version. So close it out, download the next one, or download the one if you know which one it is, if it's told you there. So we'll go into that one and we'll launch the software. Okay, software's launched. It's already filled in COM 5 for me. Click on the connect, and as you can see now it's connected. All the PID settings are filled in, motor power's filled in, etc. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the video. If I move the IMU around, you'll see that roll responds, pitch responds, etc. A little bit jerky. This is an old board, this. I think the IMU sensor has started to fail on it, hence you're getting these. If you get these IC2 errors, it means there's something not right with the sensor. Not much you can do with this board, unfortunately. As I say, it came from a crashed Phantom. It's just a board I put together to show you this presentation. So the settings you want to change, if you want to have a play with it, are these PIDs. But before you do, if you go up here, you'll see there are 3 profiles, 1, 2 and 3. What you want to do is you want to save the profile. So first thing is click the read button. So you've definitely got all the settings from the board. Click save, and then click save again. I'll save that profile. Yeah, replace file content. And then the same for profile 2 and profile 3. That way you know you got backup of your original settings. If anything doesn't go right, you can just simply reload the software using the saved profiles you've got. I won't go too much into detail with this program. What I'll do is I'll put some links in the box down below, various websites, guides and so on that I think might be helpful to you. The only one I really want to show you is this button, the Calibrate Acc. You know, if you're out in the field and you start your camera up and your gimbal sort of sits to one side, it's leaning to the left or the right, or the camera's pointing downwards, you can use this program to calibrate it, and all you need to do is click that button, hold the camera steady, use a cloth or a coat sleeve, anything that will hold the camera steady, and then once it's finished, it only takes a couple of seconds, you then find that your camera then should sit level, and if it doesn't, then obviously there's something more wrong with it than that. If you're one of those lucky ones whose boards have got a button on it, they're little tiny buttons, you might even notice you've had one, you can actually assign a button click to do exactly the same thing. So for instance, one click will calibrate the accelerometer. Out in the field, simply click the button once, hold your camera steady, and that will then calibrate the accelerometer, and hopefully then your camera will sit nice and level. As I said, I'm not going to go too much into this. There's a lot of tabs on these and a lot of things that even after playing with it for nearly a year, I don't quite sort of understand. Fortunately, the software does, if you hold the mouse over things, does actually give you little prompts. So for instance, skip gyro calibration. With this option, boards start working immediately after power on, but stored calibration data may expire or becomes wrong with time. So it's recommended to recalibrate the gyro from time to time. That one, select which sensor points up towards the sky. That one is which sensor points to the right. The sensor's a little tiny IMU board. In fact, if I just go back to the web page, there you go. There's the little IMU sensor there, and that basically is the brains, if you like. If that's not sat level, if it's not fixed level actually on the gimbal, then the camera will never sit level. It'll always sit to one side or the other. These boards, by the way, are available on Banggood for £10.98. This isn't an official Basecam electronics board. A Basecam one will cost you somewhere between £60 and £70. This is a Chinese clone. Don't get me wrong though, it may be a Chinese clone, but believe me, they work fine. I've had a couple. I've got one on a gimbal now, and I can't knock it. I mean, they last until you crash them, as I did. Anyway, back to the main subject. So as I say, there's a great deal of things you can change in here, and you can view your real-time data, set your menu button up, follow mode. Again, it's something you're going to need to look into. The last tab is called Firmware Update. You can upgrade from 2.2b, for instance, to the latest 2.40, but only if you've got an official board. If you haven't got an official board, then there's a good chance, as it says here, for non-genuine board owners, if your board is dead after loading original firmware, or in other words, you will more than likely stuff your board. So it's not recommended. Don't update the firmware. If it's working fine, there's absolutely no reason. Looking at the firmware changes, so to speak, the change log, 2.40b8, for instance, just lets you, it's increased the PID values for the upper limit, or this one here, 2.40b7, allows to set RC angle mode. Most of the things that this can do probably won't be relevant to a standard 2-axis gimbal. It's more aimed at the bigger DSLR cameras, the big, you might have seen in the movies where they have a camera they hold and it stays level no matter which way the cameraman moves. So don't really bother with updating the firmware. There's absolutely no need to do it whatsoever. So yeah, ignore that bit. So real-time data, say menu button, have a look through them all. I'll put links into the software. I'll put links into the box below with all the various things you can do with it, how to tune the PIDs, etc. The trouble is, there's not many videos aimed at these GoPro boards, and as I say, most of the videos I've seen are to tune the bigger 3D gimbals. It's hard to find any kind of settings. If you find some that work, for your type of board or your model of board, feel free to put them in the comments below. Maybe someone will come along at some point and actually find them useful. I've got a couple of boards, and I've played around with the PIDs, and sometimes I just revert it back to factory standard as it came from the supplier, and everything was fine with it. So don't play with it if you don't need to. I just thought I'd put a quick guide together to show you how to do it. So that's all for me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.